rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Oh, my goodness, I guess we're in the presence of greatness. Outlaw Dogs has a friend of hers that made it into a video called Border Czar. We're going to have to check that out. I'm going to have to check that out. I may have to bring that up, Outlaw Dogs, right here on the program, just so everybody can see it. Anyway, yeah, so it looks like at least most people in the hurricane zone that are around have fared fairly well. You know, again, 30 lives, and maybe there might be some more, but 30 lives is nothing to sneeze at. And of course, all the damage that is going on. I heard tell that Ron DeSantis did say that the damage was greater than what came through with Idalia. I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but anyway. So hopefully everybody is going to be okay. I do know that Amy and Bonnie checked in yesterday saying that everything was all right, but of course, yeah, we'll just have to see what's going on. So anyway, all right, let's go ahead and get things started off. Tonight is Pops McGroin plus his partner reciting the Pledge of Allegiance for us. And if you would please, if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hats, place your hand over your hearts, and join in. Hearts, whatever. I'm talking plural to everybody, so to hearts. Please stand, remove your hat, place your hand over your heart, and join in with Pops McGroin and partner in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
That's right. God bless America. All right. Thank you very much, Pops and partner, for sending that in. I do appreciate it. Do me a favor, if you would like to hear your rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance played here on the program, all you have to do is record yourself doing the pledge, and once you have that audio file, take that audio file and slide it on over. Send it to me. Slide it on over to your email client, and of course, send it to me. Send it to fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. All right. And of course, tonight, because it's Saturday, tonight's headliner, promotion, however you got it, Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission: to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All course materials are developed by using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following three key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, IOTC.AmericanPerspective.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is IOTC.AmericanPerspective.online. to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's IOTC.AmericanPerspective.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.americanperspective.online. That's right. This is that 100-year non-pokey thingy, according to 3 Chevy over on Rumble. Take a look at this thing. It is 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around all these pages that are tear and water resistant. Check out that binding. No cheap glues for this one, folks. It is stitched, and it goes all the way through the leather on the outside. It is, it has a 100-year warranty against materials and manufacturing defects, such that if something does go wrong, you can send it back to the manufacturer, and they will either fix it or replace it for free. It has, as my rumblers all say, sexy rounded corners. Also, it is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved, and of course, my youngest whiskey warrior has taken the inside information and assured me that you can get your civics badge in Scouts by using the information contained within as a primary source. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online and get yours today. Don't forget, stocking stuffer for all your family and friends. I'm telling you, the conservatives and Americans will appreciate it. The liberals will try and destroy it. And if that's the case, you can try and film it as they get, trying to tear this up. I'm serious. This thing is well built, well made. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online and get yours today. And while you are there, check out the rest of the Institute on the Constitution's course material, information, etc., etc. And I thank them for allowing me to be an affiliate. All right. Oh, and Coco Dominki points out it won't poke the inside of the stocking either because it's got those rounded corners. Believe me, it is very well made. One of the best ones I think I've seen out there, because I have a few of them. I mean, let me go ahead and just kind of show you these. I've got one that's from the Cato Institute, which is, it's less expensive, but look, it only uses glue on the binding. So this, if I was to use this all the time and break that back, it would fall apart. And then of course there's this paper one that gets handed out. This one came from Hillsdale College, which is cool. I mean, they give it to you for free, but it is just paper and stapled. Whereas that leather bound one is just fantastic. Fantastic. Construction and everything else for it. Just a wonderful thing. Wonderful thing. All right. Let's go ahead and get into tonight's first segment, which is, of course, On This Day in American History. And of course, for On This Day in American History, we read from the American Patriots Almanac, written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb. It is fully fully packed with all kinds of information about this great country that we call home. And of course, we're getting down there. I mean, you can see we're getting, this is a calendar-based book, so it gives it to you on a day-by-day basis. And we're getting down there. We're getting down into the nitty-gritty because it's getting closer to the end of the calendar year. So tonight is September 28th, Pat Tillman's sacrifice. Football season is a good time to remember Pat Tillman. As an Arizona State University linebacker, he weighed barely 200 pounds, but he gained a reputation for bone-rattling hits and helped lead his team to the Rose Bowl in 1997. His teammates nicknamed him Braveheart. After college, he turned pro And even though critics said he was too small and slow for the NFL, the Arizona Cardinals took him in as their next to last draft pick. In 2000, he set a team record with 224 tackles in a single season. Then came the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001, and Tillman started thinking about things larger than football. He spoke to family members who had fought for their country, such as his great-grandfather at Pearl Harbor. "I haven't done a damn thing as far as laying myself on the line like that," he said. 8 months later, Tillman shocked the sports world by turning down a $3.6 million football contract and joining the Army with his brother. He enlisted without fanfare, refusing to talk to the press about his decision. He truly felt committed and felt a sense of honor and duty, his Cardinals coach said. He joined the Army Rangers, an elite outfit that routinely goes into harm's way. On April 22nd, 2004, he was on patrol near an isolated mud brick village in southeast Afghanistan, a region rife with terrorist operatives, and gunfire erupted. Pat Tillman was killed by friendly fire. He was 27. Controversy later erupted with revelations that Army officers initially hid the fact that the U.S. troops accidentally shot Tillman. But that does not diminish his own sacrifice. Very few walk away from riches and fame to serve as Tillman did, but there are many who quietly and humbly protect American ideals with everything they have to offer, including their lives. As one of his coaches said, the spirit of Pat Tillman is the heart of this country. And that is today, on this day, in American history. You know, folks, as we approach 2024, November 5th, Election Day, we need more Pat Tillmans. We need more people who are willing to put everything on hold in order to forward the ideals and the values and the principles of this great nation. We need more Pat Tillmans. And the only way to get them, the only way to continue to honor the legacy of the Pat Tillmans and the rest is to vote on November 5th. Make sure you vote for America. And I'm sorry, but voting for America, no, actually, I'm not sorry. Voting for America is literally voting for Trump Vance. Because Kamala Harris and Walz are the Marxist, socialist, leftist, progressive, destroy America candidates. That's exactly what they're going to do. All right, well, tonight I am drinking out of my We the People glass from Lucky Shot USA. There's the bullet. You can go to luckyshotUSA.com and take a look at their offerings. I don't know if they do the bullets in the glass anymore, because I know that they kind of stopped. But anyway, what's inside is 4 roses. This is the last of my 4 roses. In fact, I forgot to grab the bottle to show you the empty bottle, and it's already, because Mrs. Whiskey is so efficient, she goes ahead and just cleaned it out and sent it on its way. So, yeah. But anyway, 4 roses. So here's to Pat Tillman. All right. It's too bad Bonnie's not here. She'd be happy. Okay. So Yesterday, Kamala Harris went to her photo op down at the border. Why did she do that? Well, it's because of the fact that there are two specific items that are considered kitchen table issues for all Americans that, unfortunately for her, have not been very high on the list for the Biden-Harris administration. And that, of course, is immigration and the economy. Now, the economy, she was delivered a little bit of relief when the Federal Reserve decided to drop a half a point in the interest rates here recently, although that still remains to be seen to see if there's any kind of an impact. It's going to take a little bit for that to show up, I guarantee you. So she has to demonstrate that she is different than Joe Biden in Joe Biden's policies, even though Joe Biden is doing his farewell tour and was on The View and specifically said, oh yeah, Kamala Harris has been with me the entire time. So, yeah, I don't know how they're planning on reconciling that, because again, Kamala Harris has to, at least in part, claim that she is not part of the Biden-Harris regime, that she didn't agree with that stuff, because let's just face it, most Americans are not happy with the Biden administration's policies. And unfortunately, she also has to show at the same time that even though she is not part of the Biden-Harris administration, she is a part of the Biden-Harris administration. Because without her experience as VP in the Biden-Harris administration, she literally has not much of a leg to stand on in terms of experience and being able to say, hey, I can do the job of the president. Because without it, she had a cup of coffee in the Senate, and before she was plucked from pure obscurity and turned into the vice president. And she failed, obviously, in her attempt in 2019 to become president. And, she wasn't a standout attorney general of California. She wasn't a standout district attorney for San Francisco. She wasn't really much of a standout in anything other than maybe a standout to Willie Brown. Well, she certainly made Willie Brown stand at attention. But she has to present herself in some way to basically make it sound like she is not in favor of the Biden regime and what Biden has been doing. Because if you've noticed throughout her entire thing, she has been attempting to distance herself from Joe Biden. And she has to do that because that's the only way that she will have any kind of a chance, realistically, at winning this thing. I mean, her numbers in the polls are really not all that stellar. So either she's doing a really bad job of trying to distance herself, or the American people, and this is the one that I actually would like to think is going on, is that that the American people are seeing through what it is that she's doing. But she went ahead and went down to the border, apparently visited the border wall for like a total of 20 minutes. And yeah, well, let's just say that her track record and success in anything, whether it's one-on-one interviews with sycophantic interviewers, all the way down to being able to handle the border and being the border czar, being the rural telecommunications czar, which they spent millions of dollars to do, and not one single person has actually been connected. And that was like 3 years ago. that went on. So anyway, yeah, let's just say that she really isn't all that effective. And this visit was literally no different. Let's take a look here. Why Kamala's border visit was a total disaster. That's the headline in Town Hall. And there's a bunch of things that happened here. So she went down there to try and show that she is, that she seems like she cares about illegal immigration. The only thing that she cares about illegal immigration, which by the way, that's illegal aliens. The only thing that she cares about there is the fact that they are here because of their potential votes. And by the way, the Biden-Harris administration is fast-tracking as many people and as many applications for citizenship as they possibly can because they know they need them for voting in order to defeat Donald Trump in November. But all of that being said, the one thing that everybody has to remember with her visiting the border is that she has spent 3+ years being the border czar. She has spent 3+ years being the person in charge of the border. Regardless of what the left-wing media want to tell you, Joe Biden himself has said, just last week in his interview just this past week in his interview at The View, well, Kamala Harris could have done anything that I could do. I gave her that power. So, if that's the case, then why is it that her policies that she has been attempting to try and convince people that she's going to do as president, why hasn't she done those in like the last 3 years? Why hasn't she done it? So anyway, she went down to the border and, based on what Politico was saying, Politico states that she plans to announce Friday that not only would she keep in place President Joe Biden's sweeping asylum crackdown, which, by the way, they only did about 6 months ago or even less, if she wins the White House, but that she would take it even further. Okay. First of all, they argued, and remember this, they argued that they couldn't do anything, that the president had no power, that he had to have Congress's approval in order to do this. Okay. But now, because it became politically expedient, they went ahead and implemented this asylum crackdown, which, Joe had the power. I showed you on this program the actual statute that gave the president the power to put in as many blockades to entry as he or she wanted, and for as long as they wanted. It's actually written in the statute. But she went ahead and she keeps telling everybody that, hey, Joe Biden put that in. Joe Biden's a better person at the border. You've seen how many crossings have been dropped because of Joe Biden's action. Well, yeah, but why didn't you do that like 3 years prior? Why did you remove the Trump actions and do the Trump actions or not do the Trump actions, remove those actions and cause the border crisis that we have had for 3+ years? And the answer to that, of course, is that they wanted it that way. That's what they wanted. And now, because it's coming up to, the election, and they know that the majority of their sycophantic followers do not have memories longer than 48 hours, they go ahead and they start saying, well, hey, we did better at the border. We're doing the best at the border. And they're not. Anyway, to continue with Politico's comments, during her border visit in Douglas, Arizona, the vice president will propose toughening the president's policy that suspends asylum claims in between ports of entry where when border crossings reach a certain threshold. This is the problem right here. So they're trying to tie the supposed bipartisan border bill, which wasn't a bipartisan border bill. It was a bipartisan, let's allow up to 1 million people to cross our border legally before we can shut anything down bill, when they won't even take up H.R. 2, which is a real border security bill that was passed by the House a long time ago and then stuck in a drawer in the Senate. But anyway, so this is per a senior campaign official, which was granted anonymity to get ahead, to not get ahead of the vice president's speech. So in other words, this is what they're kind of spouting. But anyway, the point being is that Harris is supposed to also say the American people deserve a president who cares more about the border security than playing political games, according to her prepared remarks. Well, she is playing political games. She always has. 3+ years as the border czar, letting people in, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that here in a minute, but letting people in on it. And also, once again, she demonstrates a flip-flop. Okay? She's demonstrating a flip-flop on the border. Take a listen to this.
Madam Vice President, can you share what the agents at the last stop talked about?
They have a tough job, and they need, rightly, support to do their job. And they work long hours, they're very dedicated, and so I'm here to talk with them about what we can continue to do to support them and to also thank them for the hard work they do.
What they do
Thank you.
Your action.
Okay. Now, don't forget, this is the exact same person who, back when the, quote, Haitian migrants were being whipped at the border, okay, that they're being whipped at the border, she perpetuated that myth. She perpetuated that myth, and yet here now she's talking about supporting them? Well, the Border Patrol Union had some choice words for that. They posted them on X. So here it is. Border Patrol Union. Fact check on Harris' speech in Douglas, Arizona. Today, Vice President Harris claimed she played a role in increasing Border Patrol agent overtime pay. This couldn't be further from the truth. As with all things border related, she was nowhere to be found when we needed her. This continues, of course. Vice President Harris has ignored the border problem she created for over 3 years. She goes down there for 20 minutes for a photo op and decides to repeat some of the things the NPBC has said before. But again, where has she been the last 3.5 years? This is the question, people. This is the first thing that should come out of any serious interviewer journalist's mouth whenever she is in front of a camera and starts talking about being stronger on the border. The first thing is, well, then where in the hell have you been for the last 3.5 years? You want to be stronger on the border now? You're in office now. You were the border czar. You were given the power by Joe Biden. He said in the announcement when he was on camera, he said, whenever she tells you something, act as though I gave it. Those are Biden's words. If she gives you an order, act as though I gave it, which essentially means I hand her all of the power. I've given everything to her. Well, they're not even done yet, the Border Patrol. VP Harris asserted in Arizona that CBP needed more resources. They say we have apprehended over 8 million illegal immigrants over the last 4 years. And now you realize we need more help 38 days before the election. This is the Border Patrol Union saying these things. This is the Border Patrol Union talking about this. Folks. And here, and by the way, this is actually, there is a cover letter on this, okay? There was a letter that was sent to Congress, in particular to a Tony Gonzalez in the House of Representatives. And this letter from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, so this is from ICE. This isn't from the Border Patrol, but this is from ICE, where ICE outlines how many criminals have been let into this country due to Kamala Harris's "as borders are" policies. This is as of July 21st of 2024. Totally, they have them broken out into two different categories. One is currently detained. The other one is non-detained, meaning that they don't have them in jail. In total, of all the charge categories that they have listed here, they have 10,288 convicted criminals, with an additional 4,706 that are pending criminal charges. That's just in the currently detained column. In the non-detained, you're looking at 425,431 that have been convicted. And an additional, on top of that, 222,141 that are pending criminal charges that aren't even detained right now. These numbers, and I encourage you to go and take a look at this copy. This comes from the Daily Caller. I put it in the show description. Go and grab it for yourself. It's a PDF document, but you'll be absolutely appalled at the numbers that they have here. And I mean, we're talking about some serious numbers ranking up for some of these offenses: assault, commercialized sexual offenses, dangerous drugs. Let's see. Fraudulent activities. They have a catch-all: general crimes. Look at this homicide number. And this is non-detained convicted criminals. This number is for the non-detained convicted criminals. 13,099. It's almost 13,100 convicted yet not held people who have been convicted of homicide. Kidnapping. There's 2,521 number of people who have been convicted of the crime who are in this country and yet not detained. We have obstructing the police, over 6,500. Robbery, over 10,000. Sex offenses not involving assault or commercialized sex, 9,461 who are convicted but not detained. Sexual assault, 15,811 that have been convicted of it but are not detained. Folks, these are just some of the crimes that are in here. It's just some of them. And people are essentially calling them out. We also, don't forget, we have over 350 released terrorists, as well as those 325,000 missing children. All of this, she could have fixed immediately. She could have fixed all this 3+ years ago, being the border czar. All she did by going to the border, she wanted to highlight that she's a stronger person than Donald Trump at the border. And she tried to blame Donald Trump for a lot of the failures of the Biden-Harris administration. But she failed. Here she is, where she's walking along the border.
Stay off the concrete, back over here. Off the concrete, back over here, please. Stay off the concrete over there, back over here.
So there she is at the border wall talking to the border patrol. Can't really hear her, but she's talking to them. But there she is. There's the photo op. That's what she wanted. She wanted people to see her doing that. That is ridiculous. Talk about politicizing something that she could have fixed the first day that she was the border czar. Everything she talks about in terms of being able to be stronger on the border, being more tough on the border than Donald Trump, she could have done 3 years ago. Just remember that when you go to your election booth, or you go to fill out that mail-in ballot, just remember that. Every single thing that she is trying to sell you on today, she could have done 3 years ago when she was named border czar. She's nothing but a chameleon. She is trying to play on the idea that you yourself have no memory or recollection of the last 3+ years. And that's what she is attempting to do. Yeah. I mean, this isn't really surprising, to be honest with you. That's who she is. That is who she is. All right, before I get into my next story, I'm going to take a drink first. And I also want to tell you, if you see this wonderful shirt that I'm wearing, this is the Declaration of Independence shirt that I have. It comes from, and it's the man's polo that comes from theflagshirt.com. That's right, theflagshirt.com. You can go there and check out all of their patriotic styles in both men's, women's, and kids, as well as all the accessories. It is a veteran-owned, veteran-run operation. Believe me, they have some high-quality styles, high-quality colors and patterns. There is something for everybody, whether you're athletically built or not quite so athletically built, such as me. But they have all of these styles. They have some great t-shirts and polos and sweatshirts and all kinds of things that you can show your patriotic pride by going to theflagshirt.com and checking out all of their styles. And if you order $75 or more of their product, they will give you free shipping on that order. Now, I understand everybody's hurting. We've got a lot of people that can't order $75 worth of gear. Let's just say you only want to order one shirt or one accessory. Well, I'm going to help you out. How? Pretty simple. If you go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, that's flagshirt.americanperspective.online. If you go to that site, you will find a code that you can copy and paste into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com, where you'll get $5 off your order. All on me. Go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, grab that coupon code, drop it in the promo box at checkout at theflagshirt.com when you're getting ready to order, and you will get $5 off your order. That is all on me. Once again, go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, get that coupon code, go to the promo code box at theflagshirt.com, drop that code in there, and you'll get $5 off your order. Theflagshirt.com, get yourself patriotized. All right. Well, some of you may recall that Kamala Harris, especially during the debate, which most people have kind of forgotten the debate by now. I mean, we've kind of moved on. In fact, speaking of a debate, we've got another debate coming up on Tuesday. And if I get to it here on the program, I'll be able to tell you a little bit about what's coming up on Tuesday. But during the debate, the Kamala Harris and Donald Trump debate, She talked about how Goldman Sachs and the Wharton Business School were supporting and even approved of her economic plan. Now, her economic plan, she swore up and down, oh, it's going to make all kinds of stuff. It's going to make things just absolutely wonderful. Well, apparently they didn't think so. They didn't agree. Because here in Woke Spy, Goldman Sachs and the Wharton Biz School smacked down Kamala's economic lies. So, in the course of the debate, and she was in all of her lies, she kept repeating the fact of a bunch of different lies, but she also kept talking about the fact that she, and Sachs and Moody's and Wharton School of Business, along with 16 Nobel laureates, have all collectively determined that after analyzing our plans, that hers would strengthen the economy and his would actually weaken it. Well, both Goldman Sachs, you can see it right here on the screen. You can see it right here. Both Goldman Sachs and Wharton's Business School, because I guess Newsweek decided to actually do some journalists and went and asked the question of Wharton Business School. So the Wharton Business School shoots down Harris's claim that she'll strengthen the economy. And then, of course, also as a part of that, Goldman Sachs CEO says report that Harris is better for the economy was blown all out of proportion. So Newsweek contacted the Wharton School for comment, and an unidentified spokesperson said the school, quote, did not find a positive impact on the economy from her plan in any future year. Yeah. By contrast, the staffer also said that Trump's plan would actually increase gross domestic product for a few years, but that it would lower it at the end of the 10-year cycle. Well, not that gross domestic product is the end-all be-all, but it is one indicator of economic prosperity and stability, even though it probably shouldn't be. I've talked about that on this program, too. So what about Goldman Sachs? Well, CEO David Solomon, and here, let me get this centered. CEO David Solomon said that Harris was really reaching. She was stretching when she said a report from his firm backed her economic plan. He said that the report was actually from an independent analyst, first of all, so it wasn't even from his company, but also that it found a tiny difference in predicted outcome between the two plans. How small? Well, he claims it was 0.2%. She's taking you for a ride, folks. She's taking you for a ride. This woman has no clue in terms of what she is doing. She is not fit to be president. And all she is doing is trying to tell you all these wonderful things that she thinks that you need to hear in order to get the votes that she needs. Don't fall into her plan. Please, don't fall into it. Review the facts yourself. Dig into the facts yourself. Listen to people who are out there who are presenting the facts like me, and understand that all she is doing is attempting to take you for a ride. She's flip-flopped on every single thing that she has touted for years prior to this event. And it's just amazing to me that anybody can actually listen to her and be less attentive, realistically. Not that I necessarily follow Joe Rogan. I don't really care for Joe Rogan in his podcast. But he does have the biggest podcast on Spotify. He is one of, if not the biggest podcaster in the entire country right now. Although Dan Bongino is approaching his level, if he isn't already there with the streaming part of it. But Joe Rogan's podcast, he's had some really interesting moments. And when he is showing moments, just like with Bill Maher, even though I don't know Joe Rogan's politics, but I'm guessing it's not, he has ripped on Donald Trump in the past, and I would hazard a guess that he is more Democrat than Republican in his voting patterns. I could be wrong on that. But when Joe Rogan hits on something, just like when Bill Maher hits on something, just like when the leftist media actually reports and hits on something, you got to take it for the win that it is, because he is reaching a vast majority of people who would not normally hear something like this. So when he says things like Kamala Harris will clamp down on free speech, you got to take it for the win that it is. Let's take a listen. So he was discussing it with, who was he talking to? He broached the subject with a guest by the name of Sean Ryan. Now, I'm not sure. I don't even know who Sean Ryan is, to be honest with you. But he has, Joe Rogan himself is a proponent of free speech because he actually upholds it by inviting canceled guests onto his podcast. He has had people like Alex Jones. He's had people like comedian Shane Gillis. He routinely defends the right to have free and fair conversations. So, I mean, in that respect, he is a proponent for free speech. He has defended X. He talks about it actually in this clip too. But let's take a listen to what Joe Rogan and his guest, and once again, Sean Ryan, which was earlier this week. Let's take a listen to what they have to say.
The more we have platforms where that stuff is just free, where you can just say whatever you want, say whatever you think about anything, which really X and Rumble are the only places that I know of that you could really do that right now.
Have you had any problem on audio at all?
No.
Good.
No.
Good. I haven't either.
It's audio is like they're leaving that alone for now. I think it's probably because it's not as easily shared. Right?
That's what's coming next.
Yeah, probably. I mean, all they would have to do is just put images of you and images of me and then have our audio and upload that as a video. And then maybe they would start coming after audio.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hope, I just hope this shit starts to turn around.
I do too, but I don't think it turns around if Kamala Harris gets into office. I think they clamp down more. I think the same stuff that they were trying to do with Twitter, they'll try to do with something else and with other things. They've already openly discussed it. She's openly discussed that the same rules have to apply to Facebook, they have to apply to Twitter, and that Elon Musk could lose his privileges. And there's so many wild things that they're saying. Tim Walsh said that the First Amendment doesn't apply to misinformation or hate speech. Okay, well, it certainly does. It does. You know, sometimes people say things wrong. And the goal of the First Amendment is you say something wrong, and then this guy who's an expert says the right thing.
Yeah.
And then you correct them.
Yeah, I mean, the misinformation, it's just all opinion.
Right. Well, so much of it turns out to be true. How about masks don't work? You would get screamed at for masks don't work. Well, guess what? They don't fucking work. They don't work.
I remember.
Fauci said masks don't work. Remember that interview before the pandemic, before they knew how big it was going to be?
Yes.
He was like, you don't have to wear a mask.
Then it was wear two.
Then it was wear doubles.
Put two face diapers on.
It's bananas how easily people fell in line. That scared me the most.
I know.
Okay. So you got to take the win. Now, by the way, because Joe Rogan said that on this podcast, I'm almost certain that I will get a community strike or something like that on YouTube Because even though, like he said, it was actual factual information, they'll claim it was medical misinformation, and they'll strip either the video or they'll give me a strike or something along those lines. And Joe Rogan's right. He is absolutely right. The only places that seem to allow for free speech in the truest sense of the word seem to be places like X and, of course, my favorite video platform, Rumble. This is why I keep telling you, if I am ever banned on Facebook or YouTube or actually even X, if I'm ever banned on any one of those three, you need to make sure that you get on over to Rumble and get yourself an account. It's simple. It doesn't cost you a dime. You can go there, get yourself an account, sign up, and then start following the channels like mine that you want. You just got to hit that green follow button. But this is what we have to face against of us. Okay? This is what we have ahead of us should Kamala Harris win in November. And these leftist moron lunatics that are out there who are backing her because of the joy, because of the feels, because of the, whatever. They don't understand what is actually on the ballot and on the plate that could potentially disappear the minute she steps into office. She is a Marxist, leftist, farther left than anyone else. Even Bernie Sanders is to the right of her. Elizabeth Warren is to the right of Kamala Harris. She is the most progressive, and Tim Walz is a socialist. One man's socialism is another man's neighborliness, or whatever it was, that his quote that he said. These people, I'm telling you people, we need to understand this in this election cycle, 2024, is the most consequential. And I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not being hyperbolic here. Excuse me. I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not lying to you about this. She is, and Walz is, the most progressive duo that we have ever had as a possibility to running for president. She does not need to have the Oval Office. She does not need to have the Oval Office or any type of power ever again. She needs to go and fade off into historical obscurity. But the censorship, he's telling you, he's warning it. Now, Joe Rogan, again, he is not necessarily our friend. He is not necessarily a 100% conservative. But in this, he is exactly right. In the piece from Hollywood in Toto, both Walz and Harris have shared troubling views on free speech. I played them last night. Harris vowed to punish platforms for sharing misinformation, ignoring how much of it that she personally spreads. Walz himself said hate speech isn't covered by the First Amendment, but it actually is covered by the First Amendment. And by the way, folks, the reason for the First Amendment is to allow people who are morons to say what they think and then get the truth, the light of truth, shined on them. Anything else is just a matter of propaganda. It is a 1984 style propaganda. That is what the left is looking for us to end up with should Kamala Harris and Tim Walz get into office. That's what they're looking for. They want that. They want it. This is crazy that we even have a half of the country, or even a reported half of the country, that is actually attempting to take a look at what's going on there. That they believe that these people are actually good for us. They're not good for America. They're not. All right, before I get into my next couple of topics, let me go ahead and tell you about this fantastic online digital radio station known as True Grit Roots Network. True Grit Roots Network, found on the web at tgrn.net. That's TGRN, as in Nancy, .net. You can find a 24/7 blues stream in TGRN Blues. We play all kinds of blues hits that you are probably not going to hear on the radio, from greats and backed up by on-air personalities who actually have worked within the blues sector, as either they have their own bands or they've been DJs or just all kinds of stuff. You guys need to go and check it out. Go to tgrn.net and you can listen right through your browser right there on the site. Or what you can do is you can download our app to your phone, whether it's an iOS or an Android. Also, too, you can check and you can look us up in any one of these three catalog of digital radio stations, whether it's Live 365, if you already have the app, Odyssey, AUDACY, or the iHeartRadio app. All three of them have us in their catalog of digital radio stations. So you can listen to us 24/7, 365. We have got fantastic on-air personalities who premiere unique and first heard programs throughout the week, Monday through Friday, and then we put them back on for encore presentations over the weekend. So tonight and even tomorrow you might be able to hear a couple of encore presentations, but you can go and check us out. Go to tgrn.net. TGRN, that's True Grit Roots Network, with TGRN Blues, based out of Austin, Texas. Go and check us out today. All right. So I know we've spent a lot of time, and I do. I mean, everybody spends a lot of time focusing on the candidates. We focus on, the candidates. We focus on the presidential election. We also need to focus on down ballot folks. We need to focus on, especially this year, because as important as it is to get Trump and Vance in the office, we also need to back them up by giving them a Republican, conservative Congress and Senate. So not only is it important to vote Donald Trump, we also need to vote for as many conservative candidates as we possibly can get into both the House of Representatives as well as the Senate. But there's also another piece. There's also another piece that we need to pay attention to, and that is key state ballot measures. Here's a listing, or here is a majority listing, I'm going to say, from the Epoch Times. Voters will decide on abortion, marijuana legalization, and more. So here is some of the key places and key ballot measures that are out there. Obviously, abortion. There have been abortion-related ballot initiatives that have been picking up steam ever since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022 and placed regulation of the procedure with the state legislatures, which is rightfully where it should be, according to the Constitution. Okay? Now, this year, 2024, apparently voters in Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Maryland, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, and Nevada and South Dakota will all weigh on amendments that will create a constitutional right for abortion in their states. Most measures extend that right until fetal viability, while leaving the door open to late-term abortions for medical emergencies or other unspecified health risks. Nebraska's ballot will also feature a competing initiative that would prohibit abortion after the first trimester of pregnancy, except in medical emergencies or cases involving rape or incest. Now, keep in mind that right there is where roughly 60% of Americans generally sit when it comes to the subject of abortion. Even even most of the pro-life advocates are in agreement with that kind of style of a law, basically saying the first trimester is okay. After that, you've got, exceptions for rape and incest and so on and so forth. Now, apparently there is a amendment slated for New York ballots, but it doesn't specifically mention abortion, but it would bar discrimination based on pregnancy outcomes and reproductive health care and autonomy, among other categories. So even New York has something on the ballot. Well, further down, we've got crime. So a legislatively referred measure in Arizona would empower police to arrest illegal aliens who enter the state directly from a foreign country without using an official port of entry. The statute would also bar non-citizens from using fake documents to apply for public benefits and make it a felony to sell fentanyl that causes a person's death. And there's another Arizona proposal that would require anyone convicted of child sex trafficking to receive a sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of release. In California, they have Proposition 36, which would increase penalties for repeat shoplifters and fentanyl dealers. Hey, wait a minute. I thought California said that anything under $1,000, they were just they were going to just forgive it and forget it. Anyway, so the measure put forward amid a wave of smash and grab retail thefts, which makes people realize that, oh my God, we went too far, kind of like Oregon, would reverse part of a 2014 initiative that relaxed penalties for nonviolent drug and property crimes. Colorado is going to weigh an amendment limiting bail in certain first-degree murder cases and propose to lengthen mandatory prison terms for violent offenders before parole eligibility. Seems like the defund the police, relax the crime, relax the punishment on crimes, make crime less of a offensive behavior doesn't seem to be working very well. And these initiatives and ballot measures are on these things. It's kind of interesting how the Democrat leftist policies seem to be not doing so well. All right, some drug policies. Floridians are set to vote for the first time on the legalization of recreational marijuana use, while voters in North Dakota and South Dakota will weigh similar initiatives for, again, the third time. Nebraska's got two separate propositions that would permit the medical use of marijuana in the state and establish a commission to regulate the new industry. Massachusetts, where recreational marijuana use is already legal, a measure aims to legalize the growth, possession, and the use of natural psychedelic substances by those over the age of 21 and create a commission to regulate that industry. Now, okay, me personally, I mean, alcohol and marijuana. You can argue the health effects of both, but to me, honestly, if they did essentially what they do to alcohol and tax the shit out of marijuana as it comes out, I don't see why you can't just, go ahead and legalize it. Just make it to where you can't use it on the job. You can't use it while driving. They pretty much already do that here in the state of Washington, for sure. And all they have to do then is, of course, tax it. Elections. So there are a couple of elections ballot measures. Amendments would restrict voting to U.S. citizens in all state and local elections in the following states: Idaho, Iowa, Kentucky, Missouri, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Wisconsin. Missouri has a proposal that includes a ban on ranked choice voting, a method that allows voters to rank candidates by preference, which is what we have here in our primary system. We do the top two candidates go to the top two vote getters go to the general election. So conceivably, what you could have is you could have two Democrats going for the same office in the general after a primary season. Thankfully, that hasn't happened yet. Or actually, maybe it has. It just hasn't for a high end, like for the governorship or something like that. But anyway. Also, too, ballots in Idaho, Nevada, Oregon, and the District of Columbia will all feature proposals to establish ranked choice voting. Oh my gosh, so they're going the opposite direction. By contrast, an Alaska initiative seeks to repeal the top four ranked choice voting system that the state adopted back in 2020. So we're not even 4 years in, and Alaska's already saying, yeah, this is bullshit, and getting rid of it. Idaho, Montana, Nevada, and South Dakota are also going to consider measures to replace their partisan primaries with a system in which all candidates, regardless of party affiliation, appear on one ballot, and the top four vote getters, 5 in Nevada, advance to the general election. They're kind of following Washington's thing, although we do a top 2 primary. Other notable election-related measures include establishing a no-excuse absentee voting in Colorado, requiring photo ID to vote in Nevada. That's a good one. Make Florida school board elections partisan and allow Utah lawmakers to revise or repeal voter-approved initiatives. That one I don't like. If the voters make the initiatives and vote for it, the lawmakers shouldn't be allowed to override the rule of the people. They have a couple others here. We have pay and benefits. Voters across several states will sound off on proposals to gradually increase their state's minimum wages. Okay, we've talked about minimum wage here on this program. All that is going to do is raise costs. That's it. It's just going to raise the price of products. Not going to do you any good here, folks. California is going to bump it up to $18 an hour. Alaska and Missouri are looking to set the bar at $15 an hour. And of course, mandate paid sick leave. Oh, I agree with you, Becky. Totally. Becky says every country should have an IQ test for politicians. I actually think that they should have an IQ test and a constitutional civics test for politicians. But anyway, sorry, I digress. Arizona's proposal is going to allow tipped workers to earn 25% less per hour than the minimum wage provided, that their total pay exceeds the minimum wage plus $2. Okay. Whatever. Here's some tax proposals. Arizona is proposing that it would allow property owners to seek property tax refunds for expenses arising from a local government's failure to enforce ordinances against illegal camping, loitering, obstructing public thoroughfares, panhandling, public urination or defecation, public consumption of alcoholic beverages, or possession or use of illegal substances. Colorado, Florida, Georgia, and New Mexico apparently are looking to cap or reduce property taxes, and North Dakota's initiative is going to nix property taxes altogether. Now, those are in the proper direction, folks. Colorado proposal will impose an excise tax on firearm and ammunition manufacturing and sales to be paid by firearms dealers, manufacturers, and ammunition vendors. Yeah, folks, that means that, yeah, it's just going to get passed on to the consumers. Becky asks a question. She says, what's panhandling? Panhandling basically is asking for money on street corners. And it comes up with, like, people will stand on street corners and they'll hold up cardboard signs and they'll say, we'll work for food or whatever. And people will just hand them money. They may say, and these are some of the more creative ones that I've seen. I don't need to work. I just need beer. Okay. But it's basically all it is just asking people for money without, without an exchange of some sort of good or service. So that's what that is. All right. Some other measures that are out there is that some states are going to include same-sex marriage and school choice. Several states still have bans on the books. This is kind of like the whole Roe versus Wade thing in a way. They still have same-sex marriage bans on the books. Proposed measures in California, Colorado, and Hawaii would repeal those laws. And then each of those states still has a law in the book that opposes it. Although, of course, they're not enforceable, which is, again, what happened with Roe v. Wade. Colorado and Kentucky voters are going to decide on proposals to establish school choice programs in their states. Nebraskans are going to weigh a measure to overturn a bill authorizing public grants for certain students to attend private schools. So there you go. There's a bunch of ballot measures, and you've got to get out and vote on these things, whichever way you want to go, however you feel it needs to go. But that's what you need to do. We got to vote. And it's not just for president, but it also needs to be for down ballot races like the House of Representatives and the Senate as well. All right. So on Tuesday, we have what is deemed to potentially be a rousing debate. And this is not going to be a debate between Trump and Kamala Harris, which, let's be honest, neither one of them are really what I would consider good debaters. They are not master debaters. And yes, I have to say that slowly. You can guess why. But this one coming up on Tuesday, although debates, and especially VP debates, do not necessarily historically show that they change the electorate or who people are voting for in any particular way, shape, or form, okay? And studies have proven that out, by the way. But it's going to be entertaining. And I am actually going to attempt to carry, it's going to happen 9 p.m. on Tuesday. That's October 1st. So 9 p.m. on Tuesday is the VP debate on CBS. And I am going to do my best to make sure that I carry that. We're going to listen to it right after this program, and I will move right into the debate and give you my commentary when they break for whatever reasons. The rules are pretty much reportedly going to be the same as any of the other debates that we've seen this past year, with one exception. The microphones are going to remain on. So what you're going to end up hearing is all of the little comments, the little snorts, the little, oh my gosh, all the underscoring comments about what is going on with the different, back and forth on it. But you can pay attention to what's going to happen, because I'm going to tell you, first of all, both J.D. Vance and Tim Walz are, I would consider them a little bit more of detail-oriented than their upper-level counterparts. And especially for Kamala Harris in particular, because she isn't detail-oriented. She just gives you big picture shit, and that's it. Okay? She never answers the question. And she just talks in circles and things like that. Now, this piece in the Epoch Times has gone through, and it's a premium paid report. So don't try to click on this link unless, of course, you want to, pay for the outlet, But here's some of the things that we could be looking at based off of what analysts have seen on hours of debates, debate videos and analysis by some experts. And here's what we think potentially, or what they think, I should say, potentially is going to happen on this. So first of all, obviously, CBS announced this, and Walz, of course, put on social media. He's like, hey, we'll see you on October 1st. And J.D. Vance, of course, answered the next day, but answered back and said, hey, not only are we going to do the CBS debate on October 1st, but hey, I also think we should do a CNN debate on September 18th. Walz, of course, backed out of the second meeting. He only agreed to the one on October 1st. Now, setting all of that aside, here's a couple key aspects, and they list them in 5 different areas of political debate that you are going to be expected to see during this meeting. So both of them seem to present themselves with poise and confident in debate settings. Now, both of them, according to Aaron Christie, who is a professor of communications at Rutgers University, both of them have essentially what it takes to be an effective speaker. Good eye contact, an appropriately assertive tone, measured temperament. Gee, I wonder if I have those. Anyway, both candidates also often recount personal stories. Walz tends to emphasize his coaching and teaching, while Vance refers to his childhood growing up in the Appalachians. But right there, that's about it. According to Thomas Holohan, who is a professor at the USC's Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism, Holohan said, I think conversationally, Vance is much more likely to be what he calls bold and declarative. And according to John Murphy, who is a professor specializing in presidential rhetoric at the University of Illinois, Walz has a more relaxed style, using what is a regular guy dad joke speaking style. Yeah. So we're going to see a little bit of a difference, obviously, in their speaking styles. As far as reasoning is concerned, both of them appear to be able to recall information, and have critical thinking, and they've displayed that in previous debates. However, Vance tends to present facts and statistics, and then, of course, draw conclusions from those facts and statistics. Whereas Walz is a storyteller, and he is going to have more of a narrative style in terms of what he is going to do. So he's not going to necessarily present facts and statistics. He's going to give you more of a story about what he is planning on doing. Okay? So that's going to be a difference that you'll probably see. Now, Walz, of course, has been criticized in the past, sometimes, for using generalities to paint what is an inaccurate picture of reality. And Vance, of course, is expected to argue his points based on facts and figures, while Walz is expected to use stories and examples to paint the picture. Now, tough questions is the next piece out of the 5. And debate moderators frequently pose questions that candidates would prefer not to answer. That's a bunch of bullshit, because that all depends on who is the moderator. But Walz has a habit of changing the subject by pointing to his achievements in other areas. Whereas Vance makes a cursory answer and then pivoting to a topic that presents a problem for his opponent. So that's going to be very interesting to watch on Tuesday. Walz, of course, is expected to talk around the tough questions. However, Vance is again going to provide a quick answer and then pivot to an attack on his opponent. Speaking of attacks and counterattacks, Walz's oratorical style has been sharpened over his political career, according to a gentleman by the name of Schultz. Whereas Vance is also willing to engage in an attack and a counterattack, but Catherine Jellison, a professor specializing in contemporary politics at Ohio University, told the Epoch Times that I would expect to characterize his style as aggressive. He came after his Democrat opponent with energy and sometimes with anger. Whereas Walz started off trying to be the nice guy and then, of course, went and became more of an aggressor in the next debate that he had with his opponent. So Vance is not afraid, by the way, to interrupt the speaker, so that we could see a interruption and, I'm speaking here kind of moments. But anyway, the last one, of course, is discipline. Now, this is where we know that Trump and Kamala Harris kind of got off the rails during their debate on ABC. Both of them did. I mean, let's just be honest. They both got off the rails. But several of the experts looking at the two of them have the opinion that it's easier to lose a presidential debate than to win one. Because again, vice presidential candidates, so either one of these guys can actually hurt the ticket. I personally think it's going to be Walz. It's going to hurt the Harris ticket. But usually people don't pay attention to them, so they're not exactly, what they say doesn't necessarily help. So the strategy for both of these guys going into this is essentially, as long as I don't hurt my candidate, meaning either Harris or Trump, then everything should be copacetic. So those are kinds of the things that you're going to be looking at, because unfortunately, and they even kind of mentioned that it's probably going to be a problem for even experienced debaters. And this is because neither one of these two has ever participated in a nationally televised event like this, and they're both human. So there's potentially going to be some nerves and some mistakes and those kinds of things. Vance has depending upon his overuse of a forceful style, and his, responding in anger kind of thing could hurt the ticket, as well as, Walz himself could hurt it, because he could just sit there and talk about his stories and examples and get off track and do kind of the word salad kind of thing that Harris does and end up confusing people. So those are a couple of weak points. It could be a bit of a problem. Be a word salad with no substance. So overall, Vance is expected to do well as long as he avoids overreacting when provoked. So in other words, he's got to be, in my opinion, the Donald Trump style when Donald Trump debated Joe Biden. That's what that's what Vance has to do. Vance has to be calm, cool, and collected the entire time, and cannot fall into any kind of a aggressive, rage-fueled stance from his debate. Now, that being said, experts are kind of like, they don't really know as to who's going to be likely to win. But they did all agree, of course, that this is kind of like a throwaway debate. It doesn't really mean anything. I personally think it's going to be much more entertaining than the Trump-Harris one, but that's just me. And it'll actually be a good, if you are unfamiliar with either one of these two candidates, who, keep in mind, could potentially become, depending upon their win in 2024, could potentially become, especially Vance, by the way, could potentially become the candidate for president in 2028. Keep in mind, this could be a preview of what you might be getting after the 2024 election. So go into viewing this with that kind of a mindset, and I think you'll find that you will have gained at least some information from that. All right. I do not have a question of the week, by the way, so I'm just going to end with a couple more articles here really quick. Number one is that Israel is actually doing some very good work against Hezbollah, or Hezbollah, depending upon how you want to pronounce it. Here, the Israeli military says that Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah was killed in the Beirut strike that they just did. They hit Beirut's Hezbollah HQ, by the way. And so they're doing some serious good work against both Hamas and Hezbollah. They should be allowed to continue. Just continue with what they got going on here. But the Hezbollah group released a statement confirming the death of the terror chief. So it's not just Israel's IDF that is essentially saying this. They're doing some great work over there. I'm telling you, they should be able to continue. And one last thing, I know I talked about this a little while ago, the movie Am I Racist, the mockumentary documentary put out by the Daily Wire. It is only available in theaters right now, but it is a Matt Walsh documentary, sort of like his What is a Woman? It's in that same kind of vein, and I Am Racist is actually breaking expectations here, folks. So there is some hope for the country here. Because first of all, Am I Racist was actually sitting in the top 10 for receipts, gate receipts. Okay. So they were making some serious money. At one point it said it raked in like $9 million so far. But also, according to this Hollywood in Toto piece, it's a across the board audiences. It's not just white folks that are going to see this. It's people of all races, and it's coming out with high reviews from audiences. The critics hate it, but the audiences are giving it high marks. So under weekend one, 36% of the people that went to see it were considered non-white audiences. Hispanics, African Americans, Asians, Native American, or other. On the second weekend, 32% were non-white. So almost a third, actually over a third on weekend one and almost a third on weekend two, are non-white audiences. And they seem to like it. There are several critics, apparently, several black content creators who have all praised the movie and its themes. So we've got a shot at turning this country around, at least in the way of things like DEI and some of these other things, CRT, etc., etc. All right, folks, that is it for me for tonight. Do me a favor, if you haven't done so already, head on over to rumble.com. Get yourself an account. It is free to sign up. And once you are signed up and signed in, try and find, all you have to do is search up American Perspective. You'll find the channel. Once you find the channel, hit that green follow button and make sure that you get notified every time I go live. I will see you guys Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday night, on American Perspective. And don't forget to hit those likes and rumbles and thumbs up buttons all across every single one of my platforms, wherever you're watching, as that gets these videos further exposure and, of course, helps me increase the following and the exposure. I do appreciate all of that. We will see you Monday. Have a great rest of your weekend, and good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.